now I've got my stabs all in place. I'm going to look to add in some bass. And the bass that I'm going to be looking to add in is something that's going to complement the stab parts very nicely. So I don't want anything too harsh. I don't want anything that's going to contradict what's happening in the stabs. So something quite warm, quite obviously low end. That's going to sit underneath and really hold the stabs together. You can see I've already got 3 bass parts in here at the moment. I'm going to be using 2. I've used another one here as an example for you to show later on. So we'll just open up the first bass part here. As I'm looking for the bass part to be an accompaniment to the stabs, I've actually copied down the stab pattern into the bass, and in the piano roll I've edited it slightly just to give it a bit more rhythmic movement. You'll see that the main chord progression is exactly the same, but there are a couple of extra notes that I've used as fill notes and a couple of extra notes to add on rhythm, staying on that same note. I've added these in extra notes here on the B rather than staying on the A flat, because that sort of gives the loop a sense of urgency at the start, just keeps it skipping along and trips along nicely. What I've actually used is the ESP for this bass sound, so I'll open that up for you. The ESP as a whole was a very, very good synthesizer. It's very easy to learn and it gives off a very fat sound with very little work involved. What I've actually used here is a saw wave with a little bit of sub, and then the frequencies right down, hardly any resonance, and then here's your envelope filter as well. A little bit of attack, a little bit off the attack so it's not so harsh, and then a bit of decay as well to give it a bit of pluck. The reason why I haven't given it so much attack is that some of the bass notes will be hitting on the same time as the kick. Now if the kick's quite attacky and this is quite attacky, and they're both in the same sort of bass frequency range, they're going to be fighting for space. So I just want the attack to be slightly off, so the kick really punches through, and then the bass, you get the warmth of the bass. The ESP offers a chorus and overdrive feature. The overdrive is very cool, but very powerful, so just be very careful how you use it. And the chorus, again, will layer up your sound no end, but it will make it sound like a 80s pop record. So if that's what you're after, then use it. If that's not what you want, just pull it back a bit. So I just go and solo the part which I've done now. I'll mute those for you and just play the bass part in. So you can hear the filtered down saw wave with a bit of sub, gives it a really nice vintage, almost analog sound, and you can hear these notes here jumping into the rhythm, really gives it a sense of urgency. As far as plugins goes, simple compression, because the sound itself was already quite fat. So we'll just open up the compressor here. Again, you've gone for that sort of pluck guitar sort of sound. If I just give that a play, you can see the gain reductions, put it down to about 3. What I'll do here on the auto again is just push that up to compensate for what's being turned down. We'll just close that. And then next I've got a bit of EQ. You can see on the EQ here I've rolled off the bottom end till about 68 Hz. I've done this, I don't want all of it in here because don't forget later in the track I'm going to be mixing this in with our sub kick, which we made at around 50 Hz or 49 Hz. So if those two were in the track and if I hadn't rolled the bottom end off, they'd be fighting for a lot of space down in this sort of neck of the woods as far as frequencies goes. So if you roll it off just to give the kick that space, because the kick's going to be really holding that track, it's going to be driving it, going to be ticking it along nicely. That's what you want to really come through in your mix. Be careful not to roll off too much though, because obviously you want it to add bass to the track. We want it to add some stability and some depth to our stabs, so we want to have a little bit left in there. And I've just rolled off something at 99 Hz, a little cut there for the other remaining parts of the kick drum, just to pierce through a bit. So if I bypass that and play that now, you can hear that some of the subs being mixed out, but there's still enough bass in there to add weight to the stabs. So what I'll do now is I'll just unsolo those stabs and you can hear them together. So you can hear they go nicely together, but with the sort of track that I'm doing, there will be some parts in the track where I want to drop the stabs out and I'll need the bass to sort of take over as the melodic line. So I'm going to look at adding another bass line in, or another bass sound in, to build up that sound character.